Hi people, how you all doing? Welcome and welcome back to the channel. It's Sandra here and I am back again with another video from Douglas Murray. So we're going to get into this video today and we all know how it goes. So without no further ado people, let's put our heads together. Let's put our eyes together and just get right into the video.
Well, with me now are Shalina Litt, a writer and a blogger who's also a child behaviour specialist. I'm also joined by Sahar Al-Faifi, a community activist who's also a molecular geneticist. And Fatima Barkatullah is the director of the Seeds of Change Muslim Women's Conference, the largest of its kind in Europe. Also here are the writer and commentator Douglas Murray, Kola Hassan, who's a lecturer and advisor on Islam, and last but not least, the writer and broadcaster Yasmin Alabai-Brown. Can I just begin with you, Fatima?
Yes.
56% of British people don't really support the wearing of the full face veil in public. They don't want it.
Well, I think it depends on where you take the poll, really, because, something that I've recently launched is a project called Secrets of a Muslim Woman, and it's all about letting people know why we do what we do, because I think a lot of it is to do with not really being familiar with it. You know, I mean, my message to the British public is that you've got nothing to fear. You know, this is a piece of cloth.
They don't feel that, though, do they? Because elsewhere in this poll, a majority said they don't know how to relate to a woman wearing a full face veil.
I think, you know, the people who have actually interacted with women who wear the face veil, people who work with them. I mean, we're in East London today. In East London, the veil is practically, you know, normal on the streets of East London. People who've actually interacted and worked with women who wear the veil have absolutely no problem with it. I think it's the fear of the unknown.
Douglas Murray, would you like to see the veil banned here?
Well, I think, like a majority of British people, I think that it should be banned in public places, particularly places like courtrooms, where it's absolutely imperative that a jury are able to see the faces of people who are accused. As for an overall ban, I think, look, my own opinion is that Niqab is highly undesirable. I think that we live in a society where people do show their faces, where huge amounts of our social interaction depend on people showing their faces. I think that it's very difficult to enforce a ban in public places like streets, but it should be certainly a desirable thing to discourage its wearing.
To impose a ban, but in principle you'd like to see one because you think in Britain it's unacceptable.
In public buildings, in courts, in schools and places like this, absolutely, I think a ban would be very sensible. In streets and so on, I think it's difficult, but it should be societally discouraged.
Fatima?
No, a ban, I mean, I think it's a complete overreaction. Look, the niqab has been part of the British landscape for the last 20-odd years, okay? Muslim women have been going about their business. We've got a radio presenter here, we've got a scientist, we've got talented Muslim women who've got a lot to give to this society, who've been doing so and been very sensible about it. When we need to remove our face veils, we do it. But how do you think we get through airport security?
I mean, what about the fact that 56% of people are saying they don't want it here?
You know what? I'm not surprised at all, because when you know that high-profile politicians making such offensive comments and big fuss about it, I am not surprised when the public say they are against it.
We show our faces.
Exactly. The British society, the fabric of the British society is respecting the public freedom. Public freedom is part of it, the religious freedom.
What about the fact that people feel uneasy? They said they don't know how to relate to women who have their faces covered.
First of all, let them interact with us. Let us be open and engaging with them. This is number one. Secondly, 80% of communication in the world does not involve face-to-face. Twitter, Facebook, phones doesn't involve face-to-face communications.
I'm sorry.
The issue is the problemization here. It's not existent problem
I'm sorry. I worked in this area for 7 years, about 15 years ago, and this was not, as you said, a norm. This has been imported and exported for reasons which we haven't got time to go into. We live in a society, in this society, and we live in a country which is very, very complicated. And to shut yourself off as if the rest of us are infections and cutting...
How are we do not...
This is the meaning.
We are engaged, we are active. How are we shut off?
Shalina, you have said that in engaging with your elderly white neighbour who feels uneasy, sometimes you remove the veil. When you worked with children, you remove the veil. Isn't that an acknowledgement that it is difficult for people to engage with women who have their faces covered?
Yeah, I think it is. And I also honour what Douglas Murray has just said. He couldn't actually feel comfortable, and, you know, I'm making a presumption here, but you couldn't say, let's do an outright ban. And that's great, because I understand you look at social cohesion. It's about looking at, let's isolate it. Whose discomfort are we going to favour? Because if I lift my veil, I'm then uncomfortable. And we've favoured someone's discomfort.
We live in a society, but I don't believe in the French ban. I don't think you should do that.
But why not?
Absolutely.
If you're opposed to it,
no,
if you
I think there
is
is a very simple way of saying, and a non-racist way of saying, in public institutions, everybody, whoever they are, must show their faces. It's Muslim exceptionalism that is becoming the problem.
No, it's not.
If we have the same rule for everybody, and at home, on the streets, I don't want people stopped. Okay?
We accommodate religious expression in this country. You know, Jehovah's Witnesses who don't want blood transfusions, Sikh people who want to wear turbans. We make exceptions, you know, in certain situations. And so, look, you know, I really want to reach out to the public and say, you've got nothing to fear from us.
But take
We're
up
British. I was born in this country. I love this country.
Take up Yasmin's point that this is about exceptionalism. Take up Yasmin Alibhai-Brown's point about this is about exceptionalism.
We accommodate, don't we, in this country, and in my country, Britain, we accommodate religious expression. And we do make exceptions for people. And there's nothing, and that's what I thought.
And we cannot destroy the minorities and the religious belief in the name of equality.
But what if the majority feel uncomfortable, feel uneasy and say they don't want it?
I think then the onus is on us as well, isn't it? I mean, to actually reach out. And I'm hoping that this is just going one step towards that, to say to people, look, you know, we're human beings just like you.
But if I may very quickly, religious freedom is an extremely important thing, and I think most people who would agree, I hope in this room, that Britain is the most tolerant place in the world to live, including as a Muslim.
Yeah.
But let's just add one thing to this, if I may. The issue of social interaction is very important, and not just to me, but obviously to a majority of the British people. Yeah. What I say tonight, what Yasmin says and other people say tonight, people see our faces, they know who said it. I'm sorry to say this, but nobody knows who you are. They can hear your name, they can't see you. If I say something stupid on television tonight, people know it's me saying it. If you do, with all due respect, you can disappear and no one knows.
No, we're not disappearing.
What does this say?
Come on.
The meaning of this thing is extremely important to address. The meaning of this thing is women are by nature dangerous to men and society. Therefore, they must be covered, they must be buried. That's the meaning of it. And that's what I cannot accept.
I mean, Fatima, come back on exactly that point, because we have spoken to women who say that they cover their faces because they don't want to incite passions among men. I mean, that is essentially Yasmin's point.
Well, look, essentially, I think, you know, that's Yasmin's opinion.
No, it's not my opinion.
Yes, it is. It is your opinion.
Ask the Taliban. Ask Taliban why they're imposing it.
Yasmin, you know, I'm really sorry. Maybe you haven't really met women in Niqab. I would like to invite you out to my house. You know, you can see my face. We can sit together. We can have a laugh.
Yes, but
and then I think it will change your opinion.
Couldn't come to your house and see your face, though, could he?
I can assure you I'm not going to be aroused.
He could meet my husband. No, you're welcome. You would be welcome to, you know, come to my house.
Hassan, yeah, can I ask, I mean, you used to wear the niqab and then changed your mind. Why?
Two main reasons. One was theological. I made some attempt to actually study the whole notion of niqab in Islam, and I found it's not actually mandatory. The hijab, the headscarf, is mandatory, but the niqab is not. It's part of Islamic society right from the beginning, but it's not mandatory. Just go and read a little bit of Ibn Kathir, for example.
Yeah, I'm a scholar in training, actually, so I do know that.
And secondly, we have a social function in society. We are here to interact with society. We have to have a social consciousness. We have to benefit society. We have to interact with society. And I realized in those 3 years I was a nobody. Nobody wanted to talk to me because they couldn't talk to me. I could smile until the cows come home, but nobody could see me smiling.
You see, that's a very good point, isn't it? Because you say you were a nobody, and yet many people in our poll disagreed with this notion that it was empowering in any way.
And I bet you there were many Muslims in that survey. Most Muslims don't care for this either. So to say British as if it was, you know, non-Muslims, most of us daren't speak out. When I do, I get death threats. I've had emails just this week from Niqab. He's calling me a prostitute. What is this freedom? that we have. We can't even criticize what is not acceptable, actually.
You are free to criticize.
I mean, what do you make of that? Making, in a free democracy, making her views known and getting that sort of...
That's fine. We're happy about it.
I think the issue that we...
But about the response that she gets.
Well, that's wrong,
terrible.
obviously.
That's
It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. It's not acceptable.
We should be able to discuss it. We should be able to talk about it. And I acknowledge that people feel uncomfortable.
One of the problems is that the minute religion comes into it, what happens with the people who do wear the niqab often feel they are religiously superior and more pious than people who
Nobody
don't.
has said that today. Nobody has said that today.
Let me just move it out to the audience, if you would. Sophia, I'm right in saying you also used to wear the niqab, and you again decided not to.
Yes.
Why was that?
The reason for that was that, and that was a personal choice. I had an incident where niqab was pulled off me, and it really frightened me, and I became very, very anxious. But I feel very strongly about some of the things that's been said here. One of the things that you've been, for example, Yasmin, you've said about freedom of speech and how people are threatening you. I think that's completely unacceptable Islamically. We can't be responsible for all the Muslims and for all the people around the world. Exactly. But I will say that just like you have the freedom of choice to express how you feel, we have the freedom of choice. I have a freedom of choice to not wear a niqab, and she has the freedom of choice to wear a niqab.
Did you feel that you were forced out of wearing it, or did you come to a different view about it?
Yeah, one of the things, it was a very personal choice for me. It meant a lot to me to wear the niqab.
This is not shopping in Primark. This has a meaning, and it's the meaning I'm arguing about. And actually,
but that's your perception.
Let me explain to you the meaning then.
That's a suggestion of your argument that these women don't know what their own choice is.
That's your perception.
Absolutely do know, which is why I'm objecting to it.
Jasmine, but that's your perception. You think that this is how you... my perception...
Very specific, if you would. You were a psychotherapist.
Yes, I'm a psychotherapist.
But you deal with women who are forced into wearing the niqab.
Another thing I would mention to regarding communication, in the 9 years of counselling with Sakina Muslim Counselling that I do, all of my clients, majority of them are all we do phone counselling. And a lot of good work is done. I don't see their face, they don't see my face. So it's not really about looking at someone and really connecting with that person, because we don't connect with the outer, we connect with the inner.
So you think the loneliness that you talked about seeing in these women comes from where?
And not a single person, not a single woman has said to me, my husband has forced me to wear a niqab. What the issues they do have is regards to niqab, I am fearful to go out, I'm at home, I'm lonely, I'm depressed, I don't even want to go out because I feel like I'm not accepted. And the other thing I really want to express is that where is the humanity? At the end of the day, as a woman, as a person, as a human being, where's my right to be who I am? This is my identity.
You have that right. You have that right, and you exercise it, and so are all of the other ladies in this room. But the question is whether or not, and I would ask this of I think everyone in the room who's covered, do you think that by covering your face from everyone else in society, you are exacerbating difference or making it less bad?
Mariam,
would any of you at least recognise that you are exacerbating a difference?
Is this divisive?
Well, first and foremost, I think we need to look at human rights, okay? In 1998, there was the Human Rights Convention, okay? Under Article 9, it specifically says we all have the freedom of expression, we have the freedom of belief, we have the freedom of so many things that, like in this country, I thought great...
Mariam, on Douglas Murray's point, that this is... do you understand that many people feel this is divisive? It is a curtain between you and the rest of society.
Well, to be quite frank, I think people are free to feel how they want. It doesn't. I don't care how you feel. It's really no. Wait. Really and truly, it's about my human rights. My human right, I am allowed to cover. You don't have to
just
agree.
Very briefly on the point that many people in the survey said that they feel unease, they feel uncomfortable, they feel anxious.
Well, to be quite frank, I feel like that towards emos, but that's all right.
Can I just point out, there is something fundamentally ludicrous about somebody dressed as you are talking the language of modern human rights.
Absolutely.
Fundamentally ludicrous.
But that's in your mind. That's in your mind,
Kola Hassan.
This lady is constantly talking about rights. As a Muslim, you should know that responsibility is there as well. You have a responsibility to society around you.
Exactly. I'm a community organizer. I'm a scientist. I am engaged with the community, so I'm not isolated.
You have a responsibility. Sorry, 1 second. You have a responsibility in wider society.
Well, obviously speaking, as a Muslim woman right now, all this talk about there being a fear of us. well, fear stems from ignorance. For them to be fearful, they need to understand us, and we need to understand them. Obviously, as British citizens, we do understand them. We were raised in British schools. Some of us go to university here, we work here. We understand the British culture, but do you really understand the Islamic culture?
Pardon me, that's not the role.
You can't possibly understand the British culture because there's been hundreds of years. And my mother's generation, because I too am a Muslim, my mother's generation, they were beaten, bullied and burnt because they wanted to get rid of all of this and be seen as proper equals. You're betraying that history. And this country fought for women's rights. And you've now taken us back to the dark ages.
I'm sorry, but...
Can I just take it from Shabita?
Yes.
You are a doctor within the NHS.
Too.
1 second, please. You are a doctor within... Excuse me, can we all listen to each other? You're a doctor in the NHS.
Yes, I am.
And obviously that is one of the very public places where a ban, you know, if it were to be considered, that
Well,
is
first
where
of
it would
all,
be
I would like to say that calling for a ban on niqab in NHS is actually talking about an issue that does not really exist. Because me and my friends, a lot of have been contacting a lot of doctors all across the 4 countries of United Kingdom, and none of them have ever come across a doctor who actually observed the face veil within NHS, or even a nurse. Exactly. So I don't really see that why an issue that does not really exist is actually being addressed. There is no one, or no doctor or a nurse who actually wears the niqab in NHS.
Just very,
even
very
myself,
on that point,
because
though, isn't that an acknowledgement that there is a difficulty for many people that patients would find it uncomfortable?
No, it's not actually like that, because I am not given a choice to wear it within NHS. When I know it as a fact that if I wear my face veil and go to a job interview, I will never be taken up for a job.
How is it to ask, you all here, how is it that you say it's an absolutely fundamental, you have to wear it, it's a right, it's a necessity upon you, but yet you say you go through an airport and it doesn't matter if you lift it? Is it so negotiable? In France, many of the women who said we cannot go out if we don't wear it have taken it off.
Can I just say,
Shalina.
you know, there is a place where we have the right to exercise our right. And if this was a school or a playground, you know, as far as I'm concerned, the bullies are winning here. There is a majority of people who have the power and resources to put out there an image about the niqab. I teach in schools, and I said to a young bunch of children, I said to them, if somebody came into your school, a boy, and he had nail varnish on, and he had high heels on, you know, and you seen him getting bullied, would you defend his right to be the way he was? Or would you ask him to change the way that he's dressed? Now, this is what I'm saying is, I said that I respected the fact that in context, you said in a courtroom, in the classroom, or in public settings where there are people who have got mixed opinions, that we should have policies and procedures that control these things. But being in Britain, I'm proud to be British.
Just very briefly, can I ask you, Sahar, many of the women who came forward to talk to us today are very young. And actually, one of the questions that I think a lot of people ask is, you know, we've looked at Afghanistan and we've heard stories of women who have burnt the face veil and are terrified of the prospect of having to wear it again. Yeah. And they just don't understand how young women in Britain want to wear it here. Very briefly, if you can.
Well, I started wearing the niqab at a young age, and the reason is after a research. It's a long spiritual journey. I found out that when I wear the niqab, I'll be closer to God. It's an act of worship, it's an act of modesty, and it's liberating and dignifying. And since then, I've never changed my mind. And although my parents, my mum, my sister, don't wear it. It's me. It's my personal choice.
But yes, and in a free society, the opinions of other people also have to matter. It's not just about you exercising your choice. The way other people feel about that should be of some concern to you.
But you know, these feelings are coming from negative prejudices.
We have
coming from
You don't want men's opinions? No. You don't want men's opinions?
I'm sorry, we are going to have to end it.
Honestly, this just seems like it's them requesting for double standards. It's them requesting for what they cannot give, because the whole premise of the argument is that they should have freedom to express themselves through dressing, and regardless of the fact that the dress code could be seen as a threat to people or could seem uncomfortable to people, right? that is highly contradictory to where they're from, to what they're trying to uphold. Because you cannot, I'm telling you people, you cannot do this. You cannot have nor request for this level of freedom in a country that do not give that much freedom to even their citizens. And then you as an immigrant, you're asking for way more than that. Like, look at, even the points were so weak. Like, I must give kudos to the other Muslim lady who was on Douglas's team. It just, I don't know, like the face, there's a reason why God created a face. It's a picture, it's something that you relate to. So if you want to speak to like a wall, or if you want to speak to something that doesn't have an expression, I mean, there are a couple people or a couple things. You could go talk to a robot, or you could go talk to AI. And she made a statement earlier stating that most, did she say like 60% of interaction is doesn't have to do with face to face, where and how. And she made mention of social media. First off, I believe that people have real life conversations with people more than they do have conversations with people on the social media apps. And regardless of that fact, I doubt that there's any social media um, interaction that goes without a picture. People need to have a profile of the person they're speaking to. So it goes way beyond just your tone. It goes way beyond how friendly you are, because she's like, okay, come to us, come interact with us. There has to be a beginning approach. There has to be a first invitation. You know, you're all covered up. I mean, aside the fact that that thing is actually very, very uncomfortable, just thinking about it, going about covering your faces, I don't know why. But if you're in a country where they say this thing is uncomfortable, I think it goes without saying that you should try to accommodate. Obviously, I feel like, going for a ban is going to be a bit of an overreaction, because that really takes away from a whole lot of freedom that the UK is trying to thrive on, or rather, the UK is thriving on. But I wouldn't want to hear that from the people who do not give freedom to themselves, or who do not give freedom to immigrants. Because when immigrants go to their countries, they act the way they already, like, they act with the laws in place, they act with the things already set. You don't dare demand more freedom than you've already been given in a set society. So you go into a set society and go into a country with a different religious view as where you're coming from, and you want to still get that same thing. Really, you just want to eat your cake and have it. And that is like one of the most selfish thoughts that I can ever just imagine. Because why are you asking for so much? It just isn't making a whole lot of sense to me. And I'm just like, this whole debate, it's sad that it actually won't go anywhere to those people, because these are like rules, these are things that have been instilled with them without questioning. So they don't even like trying to like reason with people, think about why they should be and why they shouldn't be. It's not even something that they're gonna consider. So it's just like speaking to a wall basically, and I'm just like, it's very uncomfortable. I personally would I'm gonna be quite open to speaking to somebody who's on a niqab, like who has the face covered, but that's just like my personality, and I would definitely understand and get where a person who feels uncomfortable with that comes from, because there's a whole lot of other communication that happens with just looking at facial expressions, to be honest. Like, there's a whole lot of message that's being passed, a whole lot of message that's going to be missed if your face is covered. And I just feel it's completely unfair, because you are looking at the person and you're having a different form of communication with that person as the person is having from you, because you can see the person, you can read the facial expression, but all they see is just your eyes in some cases, and then your tone, which is really not enough to hold or to encourage a constructive, comfortable conversation. So I'm just like, it's not entirely wrong to ban it in certain places, okay? It's really not, it's not taking away from your religion, it's not making you a sinner, it's not making you go against your religion and your law, because most times I have realized that cultural practices actually seeps into religion. Like, what you believe in culturally, there's just a way that people try to seep it into religion and make it seem like these things are religious acts. And it gets confusing over time. But nonetheless, we did get into this. Obviously, I want to know what you think about this down in the comment box. Please do share your thoughts and opinions with me. I'm really, really gonna appreciate it. But we have come to the very end of today's video. Keep on staying safe. Do like this video, share this video, comment down below your thoughts, your opinions, anything of that sort. I'm really going to appreciate it. But upon to the very next one, people, let us keep on staying safe and healthy. Bye.